Weekend as the city begins to reopen parks, but there's concern about an increase in the number of new cases of COVID-19. Today, the province reported the highest number of daily new cases in 2 weeks.
We're seeing some peaks and valleys, but hopefully we're going to see the trend go down, because I know the last few days it's gone up and it's concerning.
For the most part, the numbers have been trending down since late last month, but you can see the totals creeping up in the past few days. Today, health officials reported 441 new cases. That's the highest daily total since May 8th, when 477 new cases were reported. Now, when it comes to testing for COVID-19, Ontario missed its target again today. It's the 5th straight day the province has failed to meet the mark. Well, tonight, with Ottawa urging the provinces to do more testing, the Premier says a new push will begin this weekend. Lisa Shing has the details.
As Ontario continues to fall short of its 16,000 tests a day target and well below the capacity of 20,000 tests, some news from the Premier on next steps.
We're going into senior centers, senior retirement homes, and testing staff and residents. We're going to follow up again with long-term care.
The province will also start testing all healthcare workers, truck drivers, and people who work in factories. This as experts are criticizing the government for not having a plan to comprehensively test for cases in the community.
What is that testing strategy? Knowing that we have that capacity, what is our plan to use it?
Only now are we hearing the province will start testing people who work in trucking and factory settings starting next week. And Ford repeated the plea that anyone with COVID-19 symptoms should get tested at an assessment center. So far, few have been going.
If I got to make robocalls to get people out, I will.
Ontario's top doctor said there might have been some confusion among the public, since for the last 2 months, people were told to stay home even if they had mild symptoms.
There can be some times where that consistent messaging does not get put through.
Today, the federal government said it's securing swabs and reagent for testing and helping Ontario with contact tracing. The Prime Minister says some provinces need to step it up.
We need to continue scaling up our testing capacity.
This epidemiologist says she'd like to see even wider testing in the community to get a sense of how the virus is spreading and where we should target our resources.
What we should be doing is looking to other provinces in terms of their testing strategies. And what you're seeing is that, they have more expanded testing.
Alberta is now testing any asymptomatic contacts of anyone who tests positive for COVID-19. As for Saskatchewan, it's expanded its testing criteria to include anyone going back to work. It's also doing mobile testing. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
A plane with almost 100 people on board crashed into homes in Pakistan's largest city today. At least 2 passengers survived, but the total number of people killed is still unknown. Thomas Daigle has more.
In an audio recording shared online, the pilot of Pakistan International Airlines Flight 8303 appears to tell air traffic control the plane is experiencing engine failure. Then he calls Mayday.
While proceeding back, sir, we have lost engines.
Confirm you are carrying out belly landing?
Sir, Mayday, Pakistan 8303.
The Airbus A320 crashed in a crowded neighborhood near the Karachi airport. Passengers had flown from Lahore, 1,000 kilometers away, many likely traveling for the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Fitr. The airline had just recently resumed flights after a pause due to the coronavirus pandemic. And aviation safety consultant Keith Mackey wonders if aircraft were ready.
Was an inspection done on them before they were returned to service to verify the proper operation of all systems? Was pilot currency checked?
This is at least the 4th deadly airliner crash in Pakistan since 2010. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
A simple crowbar used in a home invasion led York Regional Police to a gun and drug trafficking ring and 17 arrests.
It was about 2:30 in the morning when 4 armed suspects forced their way into the residence. All the adults in the house were tied up, zip-tied, and forced down on the floor, where demands were made for money and other personal belongings. And an investigation started, which was dubbed Project Stanley. And this was as a result of us identifying suspects who ultimately purchased the Stanley pry bar at a local Home Depot.
The pry bar you see being carried there made all the difference in the investigation. York Regional Police identified it only as being sold at Home Depot. Video surveillance from the store identified the people who were associated with that purchase. The violent home invasion took place back in October. One man was assaulted and other adults in the house were tied up. Police carried out multiple search warrants around the GTA, seizing cash, drugs, and a number of guns and ammunition.
In addition to the armed robbery investigation that was the focus of this project, other serious crime was detected. That included the conspiracies to commit another armed robbery, the trafficking of cocaine, and a conspiracy to traffic in firearms. This was a very complex investigation. We saw officers from both our hold-up unit, the gun gang drug enforcement unit, and the mobile support unit essentially working around the clock for the last several months.
Police add this investigation crossed multiple jurisdictions, including Peel, Toronto, Durham, Halton, and Hamilton, adding many of the suspects were already known to police. The investigation dubbed Project Stanley after the brand of crowbar that helped solve the case. Colette, the weather today reminds me of an old Bob Marley line. Sun is shining, the weather is sweet.
It is sweet. And you know, Dwight, we had so many days in April and then the beginning of this month too, where temperatures were running daytime highs below seasonal. And here we are, an average high at this time of year is 20 degrees, just over. In fact, in Toronto, 23. Oshawa 23, Hamilton, St. Catharines, the same thing. And check out Ottawa, unofficially a record high there with that 28 degrees. Now, these are the current readings, still very pleasant, very sweet in Markham at 25. A little more cloud cover around Hamilton and over towards the Niagara region. So those current temperatures just 21 degrees. And you can see not only the clouds there, but those showers just to the south. So we have an area of low pressure in the States, and it's kind of battling it out with this ridge of high pressure. In between the two, most of the GTA doing pretty well. Just some extra clouds. Some of these showers, though, around that Niagara region, it may want to push northward. It's not really going to happen. So I just keep a few isolated showers this evening in those areas from about Hamilton towards St. Catharines, and certainly some fog back into southwestern Ontario. Otherwise, we're looking at a clear night tonight, or partly cloudy at the most through the GTA. A little bit of cloud cover into Saturday. It looks like a great day, frankly. And then Sunday, bringing up the chance of getting into some scattered showers, and especially so into the afternoon hours and into cottage country. We'll be seeing that in the second half of the weekend. This evening, 18, just a few showers to the south. Overnight, 12, 24, lovely, sweet degrees. For tomorrow, Dwight, and more to come on what's coming with the heat next week.
Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
Weather Update is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. Take advantage of special offers now. It's hard to stop a Trane.
Mayor John Tory is painting a doomsday scenario if the city doesn't get financial help from the federal and provincial governments as it looks toward restarting. Kelda Ewan is live at Yonge and Sheppard right now. And Kelda, one of the services that would have to see a major cut is the TTC.
Yeah, Dwight. In fact, Tory raised the possibility of shutting down Line 4. That's the line right here behind me in North York. He raised the possibility of shutting that down completely. Now, Tory said that's because the city is facing a $1.5 to $2.8 billion shortfall this year alone. Now, that's, of course, due to the funding the response to the pandemic and the huge loss of revenue so far this year. Now, here are the details of the scenario the mayor released this afternoon. The TTC would need to see a 50% reduction to service. That would mean shutting down Line 3 in Scarborough and the Sheppard line, as I just mentioned, completely. That would also mean slashing service in half on Lines 1 and 2. All streetcar service would also be cut in half. That would reduce service to every 10 to 20 minutes. Major bus routes, including Dufferin, Steeles, Jane, and Finch, would also have to be cut in half. And Wheel-Trans service would also see service cut by more than 4 million rides. Now, beyond that, over 19,000 city employees would have to be let go. Tory did say, though, that he is hopeful that help may be on the way, but of course, nothing has been confirmed yet.
But we have yet to hear in any city across the country, including Toronto, a financial commitment or even the beginnings of discussions leading to a financial commitment. This jeopardizes the ability of all cities to continue to respond to the COVID-19 emergency and to help form a stable foundation at the same time in those cities across the country, including Toronto, for the local economic restart and recovery. Strong cities built strong economies across this country before the pandemic, and strong cities are going to be needed to rebuild and restart provincial economies and our national economy after this emergency. Toronto is Canada's economic engine.
Tory also says essential services would face cuts, including Toronto Fire. They would see a $23 million cut. Toronto Police would have to lay off 500 frontline officers. Childcare subsidies would have to be eliminated. Half of the shelter spaces that have been added since the pandemic began would be gone. And 61 community centers would have to close, and long-term care would lose more than 1,300 beds. The mayor says it's not fair or practical to raise taxes at this time, and it would take about a 47% hike in property taxes if we want to fill the hole that we're in, or we expect to be in. Now, he said city staff have been looking at ways to cut costs, but even with cost reductions while not reducing the services, we would have to see unprecedented cuts if the two levels of governments do not step in with some financial aid. Now, I will be following this story tonight, and I'll have more tonight at 11. Dwight?
Kelda, thank you. Ontario has given the green light to drive-in religious services. One will take place this Sunday in the 900-car parking lot of the church on the Queensway. Today, one of the pastors explained how the service will work.
What we're looking at doing is we are setting up a little bit of a platform outside where we'll have 3 people only on the platform, 6 feet apart from each other, or 2 meters apart, and our senior pastor on what would be our educational wing of our building. It's a lower section. He'd be standing on the roof of that building, and that's like only 3 to 5 people maximum running the service. And the cars, we're going to be bringing them in from the east side and facing them all towards the building. And we are actually parking them. We've got our pastoral team coming in as volunteer parking guys just to start off. There's a handful of them. And we'll be actually parking the vehicles in such a way that there'll be a 2-meter perimeter around each vehicle. So people will not be allowed to leave their vehicles. They'll have to stay in their vehicles.
There will be 2 services on Sunday, each 45 minutes long. During the pandemic, the church has been holding services through live streaming. Normally, they'd be packing about 3,000 people into the pews here each Sunday. This weekend, Eid will mark the end of Islam's holy month of Ramadan. The religious holiday is celebrated by thousands of Muslims right across the GTA. As Talia Ricci reports, COVID-19 isn't just impacting the festivities, but also the businesses that usually boom this time of year.
Praying together, eating together, being together. Everything that usually comes with celebrating Eid will be different.
Now, due to the current situation, everything has to be online.
Including businesses. This makeup artist is teaching people her looks on Instagram.
I've been trying to create the perfect Eid makeup tutorial look. We love to dress up. That's what we do on Eid. That's what we look forward to all year round.
Dressing up is Ursula Fayaz's expertise.
Mine is a multi-brand designer studio. So we have like 9 stores here. And it looks like it's a mini Pakistan, they call it.
And now would normally be a time families would come to shop for their Eid attire. With new rules in place, Fayaz is connecting with customers virtually.
We're going live on Instagram and Facebook, and I've created a new show called Parent Fashion Hour, and people are really liking the innovative idea behind it. We have dress shoes, we have chappals.
One baker who specializes in extravagant, multi-tiered cakes has had to turn things down a notch.
The smallest I used to offer 6-inch cake, which serves about up to 12 people, and they don't want that big cake now.
Because this Eid, celebrations will be smaller. Tarek says customers love her mini cakes, but the new norm is bittersweet.
It makes me sad, honestly, and I love making cakes, big cakes. So I'll still decorate my house. We're not gonna gather, right? Huge parties.
A feeling that will be difficult to replicate, but will still be recognized, even within the confines of COVID.
Eid is very, very special for all of us.
It's still Eid, right? We are still celebrating.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
It is a momentous day for some residents of the city who are homeless. About 24 are being moved from tents into temporary apartments. Lorena Redekop was there today as one couple took those initial steps towards a new beginning.
Tearing down and packing up what's been their home for almost a year. Rob and Michelle King say they hardly slept.
I'm just anxious to go. Excited, right? Overwhelmed.
It's tough, but I mean, it's a step in the right direction, right? And yeah, I mean, you just got to go, right? We have the ball now, so we just can't drop it, right?
They say they've both struggled with drug addictions and mental health issues. They have 2 adult children who've witnessed their ups and downs. They're determined to make this work.
This will be the last kick at the can for me. It's do or die for me here, so.
We can't do another round of being homeless. It's too much. We're too old for it.
Yeah, and it means the world to have this opportunity, right? It really does.
Then it's off to their new home. They arrive at the building near Yonge and Eglinton, taking their time.
I'm a little overwhelmed. I just want to take a step back and just, remember why we're here.
Michelle is most looking forward to taking a shower.
I'd like to see the unit, take my shoes off and walk around in my bare feet. Now you're entering our unit.
Finally, they head inside. They'll receive city supports. 3 meals a day are brought in, and there's help for addictions and mental health issues. Nikki Renault moved here a few weeks ago.
Well, it's nice to be inside. We don't have to worry about the weather. We can go use the washroom whenever we can.
But there are some challenges in the neighborhood.
The first day we were here, there was already complaints. They got complaints right away for us being on their property, I guess.
These apartments are only temporary, but the city is working to find permanent housing for everyone being moved here.
Ground floor, got air conditioning.
Internet.
Internet.
TV.
But I mean, yeah, I'm happy. Yeah. It'll be hard to go when the time comes, I think, because it's going to be easy, I think, to get settled.
Keep in the back of your mind, it's just temporary.
Yeah.
And so we find something else.
Keep working, keep plugging away.
Lorena Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
The province has been giving Ontarians a break on the cost of the electricity during the pandemic, and tonight we are learning how much that is costing. In late March, Ontario suspended what's known as time-of-use electricity pricing. That's when customers pay a different price for electricity depending on when it's used. Well, it's scheduled to end May 31st. A new report from the Financial Accountability Office says suspending time-of-use pricing will save a typical residential ratepayer about $34 and a typical commercial customer about $98. The cost to the province is estimated at $175 million. The Ford government is continuing its court battle to keep the Premier's mandate letters secret.
Every other example I know in Ontario and every other government I know in Canada, the government wants the public to be able to see the mandate letters given the ministers so they can see what the priorities for the government are and what different ministers are going to do and to be able to hold them accountable. So it was astounding to us that the government of Ontario refused.
The Ford government is now taking its fight against disclosure of 23 mandate letters to divisional court. It says the latest step in a nearly 2-year battle, which started when CBC News requested access to the documents under a Freedom of Information request. Well, last summer, Ontario's Information and Privacy Commissioner ordered the government to disclose the information. The government is arguing the mandate letters shouldn't be released to maintain cabinet secrecy. The Premier was asked today why taxpayer money is being used to fight the release of the documents.
It's in front of the courts, and the courts have to make a decision. And anything in front of the courts, I can't answer. No other elected official can answer while it's in front of the courts.
Intervenor groups in the case say the public's right to information about government and government transparency are essential in a democratic society. After the break, how Toronto's once booming film and television production industry is getting ready to say action.
As we say in film every day, hurry up and wait. That's basically where we're at.
It only takes one on-set infection for that industry to go sideways in a hurry.
The risks industry leaders are now weighing, coming up next. Canada's multi-billion-dollar production industry took a multi-billion-dollar hit during this pandemic. The border closures have forced most productions to halt, and it sent industry leaders scrambling to come up with new on-set safety protocols. Alicia Hassan checked in on their progress.
Lights, camera, action. Movies aren't being filmed right now. Series aren't being filmed right now. Toronto's $2 billion production industry essentially had the plug pulled out from the wall and sets went dark.
Somewhere in the neighborhood of about 177,000 full-time equivalent jobs. So a big hit, right? It's a larger number than I can physically comprehend.
Right now, the unions, the studios, the film commissioners are using public health guidelines to draft up a new set of safety rules to get productions back up and running ASAP. But there is a risk of starting up too early.
It only takes one on-set infection for that industry to go sideways in a hurry.
So taking a look at things like crews, how can you ensure that portions of the crew interact with only those people who they need to interact with? Of course, everybody's looking at, what camera angles can you use to make people look closer than they really are? Rewriting is going to be a really big part. And that's certainly something that's happening now in terms of looking at, do you need all these crowd scenes?
And actors. Auditions are going to look a lot more like this.
Self-tapes are going to be really big now because a lot of people cannot go to auditions in person because of the pandemic.
Toronto actor Richard Okolo says that's going to take some getting used to.
I like to be in the room, and I like to be able to do my lines and be there and have them see like all the emotions and feelings I'm going through.
Okolo at least won't have to worry about international competition. Until the Canadian border reopens, international cast and crews won't be working at Hollywood North anytime soon. So right now, the idea is to get domestic productions going again. What's the ETA on that?
As we say in film every day, hurry up and wait. That's basically where we're at. And so in the interim, we're using this time to try to improve our infrastructure, improve our services, so that when we build back, we actually build back better.
Alicia Hassan, CBC News, Toronto.
The pandemic has also hit the hospitality sector hard.
Because we know from experience from the SARS, hospitality workers are the last ones to return to work.
After the break, the provinces plan to give help to hospitality workers for when they do go back to work. Stay with us. We will be right back. The provincial government has announced help for the hospitality industry, one of the hardest hit during the pandemic. It is rolling out a series of online training courses with the goal of giving workers a leg up when it comes time to get back to work. But is it enough for an industry that's struggling with layoffs and closures? Angelina King looks into that.
The pandemic has brought Donna Dewar back into the kitchen after the restaurant owner had to lay off 85% of her staff. Famous for their brunch, Mildred's Temple Kitchen, which also hosts events, has adapted by creating brunch in a box and other meal kits for pickup. They've also been live streaming cooking classes and sharing their most popular recipes online, trying to stay connected with customers amid closed doors.
We're shrinking our capacity. We're shrinking our business models. It's heartbreaking to say this, but there will be a lot of jobs lost in this sector.
The province hopes new online training courses will help.
I don't think anyone will say it's enough, but it's something.
The province is spending nearly $2 million on online training for hospitality workers. It includes programs on mental health, financial management, skill enhancement, and how to return back to work safely. It can also connect workers with employers.
This skills training will ensure these people can get back to work with the skills and know-how to help businesses adapt to the new environment.
But Dewar worries after all the extra training, will there be jobs for people to go back to?
There's so much unknown right now, and occupancy is going to be the big piece which will really dictate how well restaurateurs will come through this.
A union that represents 8,000 hospitality workers in the GTA will be running the training. It says about 95% of its members are currently laid off.
We know from experience from the SARS, hospitality workers are the last ones to return to work. And very hard hit.
Back at Mildred's, an empty dining room waiting for customers as people pick up their usual dine-in meals to go and prepare them at home.
The industry was transforming, had started that movement anyway, so now this is just catapulted it.
Dewar says once she reopens, she'll likely keep offering things like curbside pickup and possibly delivery, saying the changes implemented in restaurants now will likely continue long after the pandemic is over. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
And as more and more businesses are starting to reopen, an iconic Toronto store allowed customers back in today.
It's been 66 days. Oh, wow. Woo! Okay, so we're excited to welcome you back in.
All right, folks, welcome back. We missed you.
It wasn't just the downtown store that opened. Hudson's Bay reopened all of its stores in Ontario today. Customers lined up, hoping to get a chance to shop in order to keep staff and customers safe. The store is following physical distancing measures and has added extra sanitizing stations and cleaning inside. The store also offers curbside pickup for customers who aren't ready to venture inside just yet. Air Canada unveiled some changes to its voucher program today. Starting in June, customers will be offered vouchers with no expiry date, retroactive to March 1st. But travelers have been pushing for full refunds, and some who paid by credit card are launching disputes. CBC Marketplace's host, Asha Thomason, has the details.
I was supposed to fly to Honolulu.
A dream vacation Joanna Banasic was planning to take last month. But her flight was canceled because of COVID-19. She paid about $3,000 for 2 round-trip tickets. When Banasic called Air Canada, she was given 2 options: a travel voucher for the full value of her tickets or a partial refund.
Both seem ridiculous. I don't know if I will be able to travel in the future or even if I want to travel.
So she turned to her credit card company, PC Financial MasterCard, and filed a chargeback request looking for a reversal of the charges. Initially, they wouldn't consider her claim because the airline offered her a voucher. Later, she received this email saying they would open the dispute, but she might lose the airline's voucher if they did.
I was very angry. I think some people might be scared to proceed with a dispute if they hear something like that.
Air Canada said they do cancel travel vouchers temporarily while a customer is disputing the charges. And if the claim is denied, the airline says it will restore the voucher. But that's not how it was communicated to Banasic.
An air ticket is not a roulette game.
Gabor Lukács is the founder of Air Passenger Rights. He's heard from many Canadians in similar situations with different credit card companies.
If the merchant fails to deliver, you have a right to dispute on the basis of services or goods not received.
We reached out to PC Financial. They said it's their job to inform customers about the benefits and risks of the dispute process, and that they're now providing their agents with additional training to deal with these fluid circumstances. Asha Tomlinson, CBC News, Toronto.
The Toronto Wildlife Centre is asking for your help to protect these foxes, as one of the kits was found dead last weekend. Volunteers think it was killed by an aggressive dog. City staff has seen off-leash dogs charging and sniffing the foxes and is asking all dog owners to keep their pets on a leash and away from the fox family. Volunteers at the center are also asking everyone to keep away from the den in order to give the family some space. Now, if you would like to spend some time with the animals in a safe manner, the Toronto Zoo has you covered.
Our mission, connecting people, animals, and conservation science to fight extinction, is hard to do when we can't host guests. So the team's been incredibly resilient, offering a lot of choices digitally with our Facebook Lives daily, our virtual campouts. But it's been really tough on folks. We missed our guests. We're so happy to have them back, and we're looking forward to seeing how it's received over the weekend.
Looks like this little one is already happy with it all. The new scenic safari officially opens tomorrow at the zoo with tickets available today. You and your household will be able to take a drive on the wild side, visiting some of your favorite animals while staying in your car. We got a sneak peek of the ride today, getting up and close with some zebras there, flamingos, and even a lion. Tickets for the safari must be purchased in advance online. And it looks like the weather will cooperate for a nice drive through the zoo, Colette.
Yeah, it is cooperating. Saturday is just looking absolutely incredible. And boy, just even today, what an amazing day across much of Ontario. Have a look at some of the numbers. Yesterday, I was showing you the heat in Geraldton and in Kapuskasing. Well, today, how about Sudbury? 28. In fact, they were up to 29 degrees. 28, unofficially a new record for Ottawa, and Algonquin Park, even there, 28, which is open, well, limited openings there for day use, and probably some of the animals there enjoying not having as many humans around, but they had a hot one. Barrie, even 25, the current temperature you're looking at, and same thing for Toronto. And then look into southwestern Ontario. Things are really flipped around, right? Normally they'd be warmer, but for Windsor, some cloud cover and showers means the high today was only in the upper teens, and they're sitting at 17 right now with that current reading. By the way, London at 18, also the risk of some showers there. And over towards Niagara region for St. Catharines, you also have that chance for some showers. Through here and all along the north shores of Lake Erie, back towards southwestern Ontario. Not only that, after some evening showers, bit of fog tonight possible, so some reduced visibility into tomorrow morning. Through the GTA, though, things are looking quiet in terms of dry conditions. We'll have some sunshine tomorrow again, and the temperatures even a little bit warmer. Bit more cloud cover, though, just to the south of us, but that will even be gone once we get a little later into the day. Now, Sunday's a different story. We get into more cloud cover, not just a chance for some showers, but a chance late in the day to see some showers and even a few thunderstorms rolling through as well. Overnight tonight, look at this is our average low. Finally, we're seeing all these temperatures above seasonal, right? Markham, you're a little close, but 13 degrees there for the overnight temperature in Hamilton and in St. Catharines as well. Isolated shower early, the risk even there a little later in the day, but other than that, you're really looking at beautiful conditions. Saturday, again, kind of the better day of the two for the weekend. 27 with all that sun into Markham, Oshawa about 24 degrees there. And of course, closer to the lakeshore, even though the winds aren't very strong, it is a little bit cooler, so the highs tend to be in the upper teens, so just dress appropriately for that. Also, because it feels a little bit cooler, you may not think to put on your sunscreen, so another reminder about that one. Watch what happens as we go towards Monday, though. So the temperature starts going up, not just above seasonal, we're getting way above. By the time we're getting towards midweek, we're talking close to 10 degrees above seasonal. But the other thing that's going to be happening here that I want to stress is the humidity is going to be rising. So the dew point's going up, getting a little more uncomfortable, and we get more buoyant air, so more of a chance to see not just some showers, but a few thunderstorms popping up through here too. Could even hit 30 degrees there towards midweek, but just know that the humidity is going to make it feel like about 35 there, Dwight.
Looking good, even with the showers coming. The flowers needed. Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
We have been finding a lot of different ways to thank our healthcare workers during the pandemic, and the Toronto Raptors are no different. One of the team's top players took some time out to show gratitude to an Ontario doctor who's working on the front lines in New York away from family and friends. Maribel Tarouk shows us how Dr. Leslie Bottrell got a surprise call from none other than Kyle Lowry.
This is how Dr. Leslie Bottrell starts her days, working at St. Joseph's Medical Center in Yonkers, New York. She's a medical resident in a daily battle to save lives.
So a long day of ICU comes to an end. I've got the marks. I can take off my nose protector.
Relentless 12-hour shifts, very little rest in between, all the while being away from her two sons, who are in Ontario with their grandparents in St. Thomas.
Being without the kids, the first month was doable. I was working a lot, like round the clock. I would have some days off, but it felt like it was all consuming. So it was. I knew it was easier. I knew from a point of for their well-being. They were in Ontario. They were safe with mom and dad.
So for now, connecting happens over video calls, sometimes unexpectedly.
I'm sorry, it's my son.
Okay.
One sec, sorry.
You can take it, yeah.
Do you want to say hi to Derek?
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Your mom's amazing, by the way.
He's just rolled his eyes. Can I call you back, bud, when I'm done?
Yeah.
All
okay.
right.
Bye, Mom.
Love you. Bye.
Love you too.
Seeing the devastation at the hospital, people losing their family members and not being able to be there with them, made me want to come home and just hug my kids. But at the same time, I thought, well, what are you crying about? They're healthy. They're fine. You'll see them eventually. You don't have it so bad.
Still, her sacrifice was honored by ESPN in a story paying tribute to mothers connected to sport and working on the front lines. During her interview that fittingly aired on Mother's Day, the doctor was surprised with a heartfelt greeting.
Oh my God.
Hi.
Hi.
Hold on. How are you, Leslie?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Leslie, listen, this is my honor, what you're doing every single day. You're driving into work. You're missing your family. You're really on the front line, and my pride and joy of being on this call with you is just like my heart is racing right now.
Completely unexpected for one. I think I was stunned for the first few seconds. It meant so much that he took the time to speak to me. We're all big fans, so to actually have him, addressing you personally was pretty wild.
The doctor, being honored, was also the one who showed gratitude in true Canadian fashion.
Thank you for everything you brought to us in Toronto and for the nation. That was incredible.
And, I just want to wish you a happy Mother's Day. And, thank you. Thank you for being amazing.
See you later, Kyle. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to Derek Deonda Ryan on our assignment desk for helping out with that interview. Maribel will have more on Dr. Bottrell this weekend on our Toronto, including another Raptors superstar who paid tribute to her. That's Saturday and Sunday at noon right here on CBC Television.
Name? Bond. James Bond.
No Bond, no blockbusters of any kind this year. But never fear, our film critic is here. Eli Glasner joins us next with his top classic summer movie picks for you. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
So, are you missing the big superhero extravaganza or the latest animated sequel? Not to worry. Eli Glasner is here and he's dug up some classic blockbusters of summers past we can all revisit now from the comfort of our homes. So, Eli, before we get to your recommendations, paint us a picture of how the summer blockbuster season was supposed to unfold.
The summer we got, the summer I wanted. It's like an alternate timeline. I mean, every spring up until now, the movies got bigger and louder. Some might say dumber. It starts in March. It goes until September, and it is glorious. Right now, Dwight, I should be debating the merits of Black Widow, the latest James Bond. Is it time? You know what, Daniel Craig? Maybe he should be hanging up his pistol. Fast and Furious #9, were the cars fast enough? Did they vroom high enough? Getting ready for the wonderment of Wonder Woman. Top Gun Maverick. Yes, it's a thing. Yes, it's a movie with Tom Cruise. Can we see it? No, not yet. All of those films have been pushed back at least until fall, perhaps the holidays, and many of them actually pushed all the way back a year from now. In fact, Dwight, there was only one film, one major blockbuster still standing. The movie is from Christopher Nolan, the director of Dark Knight. It is called Tenet. Now, a new trailer premiered last night in Fortnite, of all things, because our world isn't strange enough yet. So they showed the new trailer for Tenet last night. It is a time-warping, really interesting film with a major cast. It's still on the calendar, the last film standing for July, if audiences are willing to brave the multiplex.
Okay, I've got a 13-year-old at home, so I know all about Fortnite. We've watched concerts on it, didn't even know this thing existed.
Yeah.
So before we program our own stay-at-home blockbuster season, tell us where to start, Eli.
Well, you could start with arguably the movie that started the idea of the summer blockbuster, and that is one of the greatest things that Steven Spielberg has ever put to film. All I have to say is da-dun, 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 da-dun. We are talking, I mean, what's a better summer film than Jaws? You can barely watch it, right? Just get out of the water, listen to the guy. People, you know when there's danger afoot. So Jaws is still an all-time classic. Richard Dreyfuss and the bunch, even the shark itself. Now, I could talk about some bigger films like your Avengers Infinity War, the final Harry Potter movie, but if you want the blockbuster that shaped the mind of young Eli, we got to go back to Empire Strikes Back, which is now in May, celebrating a 40th anniversary, zooming onto screens in May of 1980. I don't even know what moments to choose. The battle on Hoth, Han Solo's I Love You, I Know. I mean, this was the sequel that raised the stakes. It left us in awe, but wanting more, and hard to pick one that's better than that.
All right, Eli, I feel like you are showing our age here with those picks. Anything a little more modern for the young folks out there, Eli?
All right, so how about the new Mad Max Fury Road, given a bit of a retooling with Charlize Theron, no less, and Tom Hardy. If you want, vehicular chaos and carnage to the absolute masterful stunts, not a lot of CGI, just a lot of very gutsy drivers. That's a great place to start. And I'll leave you with a great Toronto blockbuster, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Yes, you can go back in time to where Honest Ed's was still standing. This is directed by Edgar Wright, based on the comic book by Canadian Brian Lee O'Malley with Michael Cera. And look, this is a blockbuster that stars Captain Marvel, Captain America, and Superman, because all the actors who went on to play those famous roles were in that movie before they put on the spandex. So Scott Pilgrim versus the World, wonderful blockbuster with lots of Toronto connections.
And we like that. Thanks, Eli. Have a good weekend, buddy.
You're welcome.
Residents of a seniors' home in Wales had some special guests take part in their regular bingo game.
5 and 8, 58.
One little duck, number 2.
8 and 7, 87. 6 and 2, tickety boo.
Yes, that's the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge calling the bingo numbers before the game began. Prince William asked for some tips on how to play. Now, afterwards, the cheeky winner told him and Kate their call wasn't quite as good as it should have been, but still, there's no doubt the royal visit was a welcome pick-me-up. After the break, today's frontline heroes. Stick around for that. We're coming right back. A family in Mississauga recently decided physical distancing measures wouldn't stop them from celebrating their grandmother's 87th birthday, and they say the staff at her retirement home helped them make it truly special.
Happy birthday! Oh my God. We brought you some cake. You guys are so nice. Hey, dear Nana, happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. There you go.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
What a surprise.
Yes. It's great.
A very nice surprise. Dorothy Britton lives at the Village of Erin Meadows Retirement Home in Mississauga. Her granddaughter, Megan Noonan, says the Meadowvale staff working with her have been amazing and have made it a priority to find ways for her to connect with her family. Noonan tells us this is the happiest they've seen their grandma in a long time. Thank you for everything you're doing at the Village of Erin Meadows Retirement Home. Shout out to you tonight. If you would like to share a story about your frontline hero, send us a selfie-style video explaining why they are a hero to you. Tag us on Instagram or Twitter at CBC Toronto. Send us a message on Facebook or just email us at torontotips@cbc.ca. We have an update tonight on a story we brought you yesterday about a pet rescue from Cayman Islands to Toronto.
Hi, sweet girl. Hello. Oh, big jumps. Hi, baby. Hello. Hi. It was a nightmare being away from her, and now I feel like full again. Like a little piece of me was missing, and now I'm complete having her back.
That was a happy reunion. This was the scene this afternoon at Pearson as some very happy owners were reunited with their pets. Some have been separated for months now, forced to leave their companions behind when the pandemic hit in order to get on repatriation flights back home to Canada. Now, earlier today, the animals were brought to the Cayman Islands airport to begin their journey home. They flew on a charter flight dubbed Noah's Ark. It was organized by a Canadian woman living in the Caymans. You see her there. On board the Ark were 55 pets and nearly 100 people. Some of the people on the flight chose to stay in the Cayman Islands rather than be separated from their animals. You must have loved that reunion.
Yes, you know I love that story. And I know that feeling being reunited with your pet. So, gosh, that's such an amazing story. So happy for them. And you could tell how happy that dog was too, not just the owner. This is what's going on with our weather pattern right now. Okay, can you see how this is kind of twirling in this counterclockwise fashion here? That's around low pressure, high pressure here, and between the two, you get into this little area of precipitation, and it's just south of the GTA. It is having an impact here on the Niagara region, all along the north shore of Lake Erie, back towards southwestern Ontario, but we're doing just fine in Toronto, where you're going to have some wet weather, some showers, still that potential through the evening hours through this region, and then a bit of fog after that, but otherwise this will then move away. So we are looking at improving conditions even in those areas as we go into Saturday. Things really looking nice. This evening, though, we're looking at a little extra cloud cover in parts of the GTA, 18 degrees, overnight 12, so very mild. It'll be a little cooler than that a bit further north towards Newmarket, towards areas like Markham, into Cottage Country, because there's less cloud cover there. Tomorrow afternoon, Dwight, though, 24 degrees, a beautiful day, a beautiful Saturday.
I'm going for a physical distance run tomorrow. Looking forward to that in that nice sunshine. Have a good weekend, Colette.
You as well, Dwight.
That is our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Mike Wise has your next local news tonight after the National at 11. We will see you back here on Monday. Stay safe. Have a great weekend, everybody.